Talk to me nice, I get sensitive. Choice of your words to convey. Your intentions might mean the best, but it's in your approach and delivery. I get so through by my triggers, probably from niggas who thought that they owned me. Really consider that I do, you do, we do good on our own. Back on my throne, like yeah. Accept me at my worst, like you do my best. Better than I was last year. I've been facing tests, separate from the rest. Hope you're facing all your fears. I've been going so damn hard. It's been taking all this time. Giving up ain't in my blood. It's all in the signs. It's all in the signs. All in the signs. It's all in the signs. It's all in the signs. It's all in the signs. I'm so nice, everybody's type. Eyes on the clock of my demise. Don't you fall into the quicksand. It's better on the cement. Telling no story, no power in your past. Even if you're 30, gotta make it last. I do, you do, we do good on our own. Back on my throne, like yeah. Accept me at my worst, like you do my best. Better than I was last year. I've been facing tests, separate from the rest. Hope you're facing all your fears. I've been going so damn hard. It's been taking all this time. Giving up ain't in my blood. It's all in the signs. It's all in the signs. All in the signs. It's 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 all in the signs.
Greetings, 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 honor and respect, honor and respect, honor and respect. It is another edition of Revolutionary Hoodoo, New Orleans Voodoo Secrets and Recipes, powered by NONVD, New Orleans National Voodoo Day. Please continue to support us, follow us, join us at www.vodouday.org. That's www.voodooday.org for more updates and upcoming information about our third annual National New Orleans Voodoo Day. Also, our coming name change. We are now becoming New Orleans International Voodoo Day, New Orleans International Voodoo Day. So we certainly do appreciate your continued love, support of this powerful and historic event, and to join us at www.voodooday.org, www.voodooday.org. You know, Africans have practiced herbalism for thousands of years. The Ebers Papyrus, part of 6 papyri comprising the oldest surviving Egyptian medical text. The Ebers Papyrus was written between 2000 BC and 1500 BC in Egypt, lists 1,000 different herbal medicines. Enslaved people from West Africa not only brought herbal knowledge with them across the Atlantic, but they also imported the actual seeds. Captains of slaving vessels used the African native roots to treat fevers that decimated their human cargo. The ship's holds were lined with straw that held the seeds of African grasses and other plants that would be planted in the New World. Moreover, since the West African climate is similar to the climate in the mid Atlantic region, the enslaved may have found counterparts to their own plant species. In many situations, white settlers and explorers only survived because of African knowledge of medicinal plants. Although the exchange of plant knowledge was cross cultural between the Africans and the indigenous peoples, there were distinct differences in the ways this knowledge was preserved and applied. Plants brought more than healing to enslaved Africans. They brought light, connection, remembrance, and joy into the otherwise dire and harsh living conditions experienced within slavery and subsequent economic and social oppression. Herbalism practice represented empowerment and healing for enslaved people because there were very few other options for healing. African herbalism in the American colonies was a rich merger of many cultural traditions with deep origins rooted in African history dating back to ancient Kemet. It included Arabic and Asian practices that crossed paths due to trade and cultural exchange on the African continent. And as enslaved African people crossed the Atlantic with the transatlantic slave trade, their herbal knowledge and practices were influenced by the indigenous Americans, as well as appropriated by European settlers. After arriving in the Americas, cohabitation and collaboration with indigenous Americans meant that enslaved Africans were then introduced to knowledge of local plants and their medicinal ways. Therefore, African American herbalism is a hybrid of all the knowledge that enslaved Africans came into contact with leading up to and throughout their enslavement. Early African American herbalism was based on a relationship and connection to the land. Enslaved Africans brought their seeds of their homelands, braided in their hair, and the knowledge of medicinal plants to their stories and songs. However, much of the herbal knowledge gained in America came from direct connection, necessary learning, and the use of plants foraged in woods, forests, and wetlands that provided a refuge from enslavement on plantations. For enslaved Africans and their descendants, herbalism and spiritual nourishment were intertwined. Plants supported their endurance and resilience in the face of enslavement. Self treatment relied on their earliest colonial period, continued to be prevalent during the antebellum period. Enslaved Africans regularly sought more contact with indigenous communities when their medicines weren't working. The European colonists observed the herbs and plants used by enslaved Africans. There was a complex relationship between colonizers and the enslaved when the practice of herbalism was involved. On one hand, colonizers wanted the enslaved Africans' healing knowledge, especially when their own remedies were not working or European medicine was too expensive to import. On the other hand, European colonizers also feared African root medicines and did not want enslaved people to be empowered in this way. For enslaved Africans, herbal knowledge was a tool for liberation and spiritual, emotional, and physical health. Highly sought after herbal supports could even be used as bargaining tools for freedom. And as a result of the anatomy held by enslaved African healers, European colonizers feared poisoning and uprising. As a result of the autonomy held by enslaved African healers, European colonizers feared poisonings and uprisings, but they also needed the benefits of the plant medicine provided by the people they oppressed. There were many colonizers who sought to forbid the practice of herbalism, African herbalism. On May 10th, 1740, the South Carolina Assembly enacted the Bill for the Better Ordering and Governing of Negroes and other slaves in this province, also known as the Negro Act of 1740. The law prohibited enslaved African people from growing their own food. Plants for the practice of herbalism were included, learning to read, moving freely, assembling in groups, or earning money. And shortly thereafter, Virginia followed South Carolina by passing a similar law that made it a capital offense for enslaved people to learn or teach herbal practice. Healthcare was rarely provided to enslaved people. Instead, many relied on African folk medicine to treat specific conditions. Many herbal traditions used by enslaved people were not written down, but rather passed verbally from person to person. It's important to recognize African herbalism's spiritual component. The process of gathering herbs was a ritual that connected enslaved people to their higher power and the nature around them. As noted by historian Charla Fett, the ritual of healing helped maintain proper relationships between living persons and the world of ancestors and spirits. In a time as challenging as the early 17th century for Africans, they found identity and revelation in plant medicine. The beauty of folk medicine was in the simplicity of the formulation. Enslaved people did not have access to alcohol or other commodities like the planter class. The time and resources needed to make tinctures and extraction of plant constituents with alcohol weren't present for those enslaved. They resorted to using water extractions for the majority of their medicine making. Water infusions are among the simplest to produce, and they are timeless in making formulations or herbal teas. Formulations made through boiling plant matter and topical poultices are among other preparations enslaved people used. The innate wisdom needed to locate, identify, and utilize these plants is one of the greatest gifts of knowledge demonstrated by humankind. Illnesses on the antebellum Southern plantation provided myriad opportunities for knowledge interaction between African Americans and plantation owners. The majority of this interaction took place at a personal level between individuals, facilitated by the fact that the whites and African Americans living on a plantation were in frequent, close contact. The knowledge of African herbalism is not widely known today. It is important to retain this history of the practices, the food ways, and knowledge that help these ancestors survive and build resiliency and solve health issues using ingenuity and sheer will during enslavement. And certainly the application of this knowledge is more relevant now than ever as we continue to move forward with the loss of land, the loss of regional knowledge of plant life, uh, seasonal growing seasons for plant life, when to grow, how to grow, etc. And certainly the usage of these plants, and not only in root work, conjure, hoodoo, voodoo, but certainly for their health, medicinal, nutritional, and spiritual benefits. So we certainly are always appreciative and grateful for our continued support and live listening audience, those who gather here with us on weeknights at 9 p.m. U.S. Central Standard Time to be a part of this historic and legendary podcast in support of this historic and legendary event. New Orleans International Voodoo Day. So greetings, Nina Lloyd. Thank you so much for being a present participant and joining us. Thank you, Maceo. We missed you, and thank you for joining us again. Greetings and salutations to you, D Goddess. Thank you so much for being present. Maceo, we have been talking about sinners for probably a little bit over a week, but certainly we are open to more conversation tonight as we go into our open discussion. And we certainly appreciate anything that you might want to bring and contribute. Thank you so much, Elder Reggie, our team member and elder and financial advisor and administrator for NONVD. Thank you so much for your continued presence and support. Thank you. Greetings and salutations to you, Britt, Brad. I can't read it all right now, but thank you for your presence, Daniel Neal, a local community member. We certainly appreciate your love and support. Good evening to you and yours. And thank you for being present. We have about 14 minutes left in the show, so you're not very late, but we certainly appreciate your continued support and presence for being here. Greetings, Elder Reggie. Greetings and salutations to you. How are you doing?
Greeting, divine. Bless. Everything good, everything peaceful, and I like the activity in the movement in the chat tonight. That's pretty good. Is Sister Toni on board tonight? I want to tell her greetings also.
Yes, I'm here, Elder Reggie. Greetings to you. How are you?
All right now.
You didn't give me no homework last night.
I know, because you did such an excellent job and I learned so much. And then, with Elder Divine coming in tonight with more herbal stuff, and as Maceo brings up once again, sinners, and we doing a deep dive into the herbs that was used within that movie to learn as a community. Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that movie really got people of all ages across the United States delving into history, the Orisha, Hoodoo, trying to learn more about it, and just verifying what the movie said. Ryan Coogler was very authentic. He went straight to the people who would know. He went straight to the Choctaw tribe, to a Voodoo priestess, several. The actors had to learn from each one of the places he went and brought in specialists. So it was a lot of learning going on, and still is going on because of that movie. And like I say, it's going to be talked about for a long time.
Yes. One of our other community personnel, she recommended to the whole group, white and black and Hispanic, that they need to go see the movie. And I thought, wow, that's pretty powerful, because that movie really resonated with her. So now I'm gonna do a little research myself. I want to know what herbs was used to make a mojo bag. That really got my mind running right now. What herbs they would use to make that mojo bag effective?
That all depends on the individual that the mojo bag is being made for. And not just herbs go into mojo bags.
That's
Crystals, stones, hair, dirt. But as far as the alcohol, the black cloth is soaked in certain alcohols. The mojo is a complicated instrument,
Okay.
and they are each made for the individual.
That's right. There's no such thing as walking in a store and you got a basket full of pre-made gree or pre-made mojo.
But Elder Divine, you go in the French quarters, you can find them like that.
You also find voodoo dolls in the French Quarter. So
yeah,
what that mean? Okay.
Yeah.
They might
Yeah.
say they have mojos that bring you luck, and in the inside they may have some known stones or herbs that are said to bring luck.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just say generic. They may
Okay.
have some that are said to bring you love. But when we talking about protection, that strictly belongs to the individual, and individual, the person making the mojo bag has to really know the individual, either through personal or through a reading.
So what I'm hearing you saying, back to herbology, even back in the day, they knew what herbs would match with a person's personality. Once after they talk with that person, they would may say, well, herb A, B, and C, because of his personality, would go in this bag to protect him. That is that what I'm hearing, Sister Toni?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. Gotcha.
And remember, not all just herbs in a mojo bag. You might have a silver dime. They might need copper in there. They might need silver in there. They might need a little bit of gold in there. I mean, it all depends on the individual.
It
What
depends on the individual and the divination
There you
grown
go.
for the individual and for the purpose. Again, and let's be clear, hoodoo is a closed practice. So these books, these Amazon buy products, going into some of these tourist shops, you're not accessing authentic implements to the practice more often than not. And these stores may have one or two items of a specific type, for particular usage, but there is no instructions there. There's no process being explained there. And so,
Yeah.
these things become, quote unquote, good luck charms and amulets and trinkets, of the general luck variety, but are not as specific to the practice as Sister Toni is describing, and to the individual.
But Divine, if you don't mind, okay, it was a beautiful passage that you read opening up the show. If we bringing these herbs over from Africa and they get implanted into American soil now, when do we take the particular herb to use it for a spiritual modality such as a mojo bag? I'm trying to see the connection, because I do something similar to a mojo bag, but when you said the word, you got to divine. That's how I do it. I have to throw the shells, and the shells lead me to what need to go into the bag. I'm trying to ask, let's say in the 1800s, how was our people doing it? That's what I'm trying to get the answer to.
They would have been performing divination, and according to the divination, would have been what would have been put into the bags. Now, there's some, disagreement about Marie Laveau, particularly, and sort of her opening up the practice and the tradition to white folk, but we still don't have any documentation that she made generic across the board product, or that she even had product that she sold in the community and then outside the community. We don't have documentation of that specifically, but we know in the authentic practice, divination is involved. Astrological formulations are often involved. Seasonal formulations would have been involved, which would have been common knowledge to planners of that time.
Yeah, good point. In the movie Center, they do show divination, because I think she threw her bones 3 times in that movie.
Yeah, to see what's going to happen to her, her outcome in the situation that was going on, and she saw herself not making it through.
Right, right.
Now, when you talk about the certain herbs that may be in mojo bag, also it'll kind of be regional depending on what herbs are available where you are. Clover, the little clovers that be growing in everybody's yard, they for protection against negative energy.
Sure, yes.
That's why I hate when a man come and cut my grass, because I got a big patch right in front my door. And when
But
he
you're
cut
also
them,
now, but you're also now referencing sort of that again, that exposure to European culture, European practice. Clovers came to America by way of the Europeans.
well, we use them. Like I said, you use what you had.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of speaking
And I
about
said
voodoo,
it's regional.
it has its inner intersectionality in terms of cultural
Yeah.
representation.
I mean, mostly everything we have over here is indigenous here, and we had to learn how to incorporate it to make up for what we didn't bring over on the slave ships.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
Where there's a will, there's a way. But um another group of people that was strong on mojo type bag was the Native Americans.
Mm-hmm.
And they would put herbs and items in theirs. And some of theirs might have been a little bigger than what we're used to seeing. Because they put them in pouches tied around their waist.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
They had no
we
need to
know
hide there.
that enslaved Africans cultivated their own gardens and foraged locally. They again utilized what was readily available to them, but they often did not use the plants grown on the plantation. African American herbalism was, by its very nature, what we now consider bioregional herbalism, because they had to use the plants that were immediately available around them. So those roots, bark, leaves, berries were utilized at different stages. And this implies that many enslaved Africans had complex herbal practices of identifying plants at different stages, knowing what was poisonous and what was not, and then choosing a few plants over many because they had knowledge of the exact function of that plant. Even observing the animal,
Mm-hmm.
and how they
Mm-hmm.
foraged and responded to certain plants helped them to gather critical knowledge about using what was available in their regionally.
Mm-hmm.
now I know one plant we have down here, well really it's a tree, that my mama was strong on, and that was bay leaf.
Oh, yeah.
Hmm.
Yes, yes. Mm-hmm.
Bay leaf. I mean, we had bay leaf, that was for protection. We had bay leaf in on our windowsills.
Hmm.
So I mean, I don't know if bay leaf trees grow in other areas of this country, but I know they grow in the South.
Yeah, they're prolific here.
Yeah.
Mullein is a plant that is so prolific. most people treat it as a weed now. And certainly the whole entire plant, the leaf, the flower, and the root of the mullein plant was used. Cotton was used. We often think of the sort of negative symbolism of cotton, but cotton was also used, the cotton seed, the cotton bark, the cotton root, in women's health and menstruation. Folk practitioners have historically made tea out of cotton roots to ease labor pains. The root, the bark, the seeds can also cause uterine contractions. Some enslaved people use cotton as an orbificent through the induction of uterine contractions. So cotton was a plant that, we were again familiar with, as the, laborious, toiling, crop that it was, but also had many medicinal properties and qualities that don't get mentioned as much because of the trauma we associate, I think, with the cotton. Sassafras was common back then. Root tea, leaves, the twig, the bark. Doesn't sassafras also have something to do with the production of root beer?
Sassafras.
Yeah, it does.
Sassafras is filet.
Yeah, filet. Yeah.
Okay.
Sarsaparilla. I'm trying to think what is root beer. Because my mom used to make that little nasty root beer with that liquid. That stuff was nasty. Give me a Barks. But yeah,
but certainly wormwood, basil, all sorts of plants, and many historic herbalists that don't get talked about enough, like George Washington Carver, and Harriet Tubman, who used herbalism, botany, and her natural knowledge of the world around her to heal and to provide food for. They passed it on the Underground Railroad. So it's clearly a underrepresented, understudied aspect of our lives here in the Americas. We still have the opportunity to cover and bring more information about moving forward. I certainly appreciate you all joining us for another edition of Revolutionary Hoodoo, New Orleans Voodoo Secrets and Recipes. And we do offer you to join us here again on Monday night at 9 p.m. U.S. Central Standard Time. I certainly appreciate you, Elder Reggie, and all that you bring to the team. Sister Toni Val Martinez, and your reliability and commitment to the podcast. Thank you, Joshua Tanner, for coming on and joining us. And for those of you in the chat, Britt Brat, D Goddess, Daniel Neal, thank you all. Maceo, thank you all for your continued love and support. And remember, all is truly and indeed a blessing if you can just see beyond the veils, for it is all just an illusion and a test, and one of the greatest divine mysteries of this life cycle. And no matter what you do, respect the voodoo. Good night, everyone. Odabo.
Ashe. Good night.
Ashe.
Good night.
Audio Jungle.
I am the Divine Prince, Tai Emmecca, Pan-African Spiritualist, Practitioner, Author, Advisor, Elagoon, Oloye, Hoodoo, Obeya, Bokur. I reside in this beautiful and legendary, historic Treme, New Orleans, Louisiana.
So join me as I share food, music, culture, tradition, the rhythms, and the flavor of New Orleans voodoo. Respect the voodoo.